This is the Dyson Airstrait. It is a brand new tool from Dyson, and they have a lot of claims about what this is supposed to do. The question we need to ask ourselves before you go spend your money on one: what is it? How does it work? Does it actually live up to the claims? And ultimately, is it worth you spending your hard-earned $500 on? 500. It's $500. Yeah, there's that. Before we dive in and I kind of walk you through how this works, first I feel like it's important to say that this is not sponsored. Nobody's telling me what to say. Nobody's telling me I can or cannot say something. I spent my own $500 on this little guy right here to see for you if it makes sense for you. And by the way, if you're new to the channel, my name is Justin Hickox. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I've been a professional hairstylist since 1995. Okay, first of all, let's talk about what this thing is and kind of break down a little bit of how it's supposed to work, and then we'll see if it actually does what it's supposed to do. Okay, so this, first of all, like I said before, is the Dyson Airstrait. Now, it's pretty interesting. In the box, you get this and this. So this is a little heat pad to set this on, and it is kind of nice. It's got a little bit of anti-slip. This, first things I would say about it is when you take it out of the box, what shocked me is this is a pretty large piece of equipment. Now, if you've ever played around with the Dyson straightener, the flat iron, right, their Corral, that is, I would say, roughly a similar size and shape to this, but it seems quite a bit heavier. This is actually quite light. So that's nice. It actually doesn't feel like it would be a real pain to be holding up for too long of a period of time, which is important, right? When you're holding your hands up like this, your arms up like this, it's important that it's not so heavy that that starts to be taking too much toll on you. So I feel like that was a good call on their end. It's got the standard kind of filter right here, right? This is the same thing that they have on their blow dryer and their air wrap at the bottom. I do like this setup. There's a little button right here, so this allows you to actually hold this closed, lock that in place. I will say that doing this, while I love the design of it, right? Dyson's really good at designing their products. They always look really nice and they look really well built. Part of the fact that this is lightweight means that it's not a lot of metal, right? It's got to be lightweight materials. That also on some levels makes it feel a little bit, I don't want to say cheap, but a little bit cheap, right? Cheaper maybe. So it's something to take in consideration. So let's turn it on. I'll show you kind of how this works. So here's your power button. When you turn it on, it's going to clean itself like it is right now, okay? So it's cleaning. Now, there's different modes. You can use this on wet hair or you can use it on dry hair. It's technically meant to be used, or it's kind of, I guess I should say, its sweet spot, the way that they really promote it, is taking wet hair from wet all the way to dry, straight and smooth, all in one process. That's where it's supposed to save you the time. Now, there's different settings. So if I click this button, it goes to dry. And if you notice that now, this is going to be a little bit different in the way that it's going to approach your hair. And this is meant for dry, using on already dry hair. There's also cool and hot buttons right here. Those buttons, so if you click this once, right, it's going to go into cold. If you click it again, it's going to turn cold off. If you click this hot button, it's going to change it through the different temperatures: 250 degrees, 285 degrees, and boost. Right, see if that changes when we move over to wet. So when we're looking at wet in the wet mode, then we have 175 degrees, 230 degrees, and 285 degrees. So those temperatures do change. So that's part of how they change depending on if your hair is wet or if you're drying it when it's already dry. Now there's another setting on here that's pretty interesting actually. And so if I take this button right here, this settings button, and I hold it down for 3 seconds, it sends me into this mode right here. If I click it again, I go into the settings mode. Now I can scroll through the different settings, but the first one we come across is called idle flow. If I turn this on, it means that when this dryer or the straightening system is closed, it's got maximum airflow coming out of these two vents. There's two vents right here that actually air comes out of there. Now, those two vents, if I open it while it's in idle mode, those two vents are going to slow down their airflow. So there's going to be less air coming out of them. And that is to say that when your hair is in between and you're actually making a pass through your hair, then those are full blast and they're giving you the maximum drying potential. And then when you open it up, they slow down so that there's less ambient wind going around your head. My assumption is, and I haven't read anything about this, but my assumption from knowing hair is that minimizing that ambient wind or airflow would help to minimize the potential of your hair getting frizzy. If you've got wavy or curly hair, I'm sure you've noticed that the last thing you want to do is have more air manipulation on your hair. The more your hair is manipulated by air, the more it has a probability of getting frizzy. You want to be very specific about where you direct that airflow, right? You want it down the hair shaft in a very specific way, because if you just blow it around all crazy, it's like sticking your head out the window while you're driving down the road, your hair is going to be a big frizzy mess. So this is meant, I believe, it would make sense. It seems logical that that is meant to minimize that potential concern of that adding that excess potential frizz while you're in between sections. And that's a lot of thought that went into that, and I do like that kind of mindset in the research and development of creating this product. So that's very interesting. And then there's obviously this. So I can lock that into place and that'll continue to blow out hot air, hence a blow dryer. So here's what's interesting to me about this, and this is why I want to do these tests for you. This has to work better or faster and as good, which would also kind of be better, than the standard way that you might approach your hair, meaning that you would typically rough dry your hair with a blow dryer or let it air dry. If you're letting it air dry, I would still say you rough dry it with a blow dryer. That's a whole nother video on how wet hair is more susceptible to damage and all of that stuff. But you get it dry, and then you take whatever tool you're using, flat iron, round brush, curling iron, whatever it is, to polish it off or kind of give you your finished look. Okay, now, so for the testing, I was able to use our son's girlfriend, Rachel, who, if you look at this photo right here, you can see she's got a little bit of natural texture in her hair. It's not super curly, but it also isn't straight. Her standard routine for styling her hair would be to use a blow dryer, blow dry it, and then use a flat iron to kind of smooth it all out. And so I wanted to allow her to both use the Airstrait as well as use her normal routine so that we could test them against each other and see, one, was the Airstrait faster? And two, did it actually yield maybe better results? So the first thing I had her do was wet her hair down and basically let it get to the point where it was towel dried. We didn't use any products whatsoever on this. I wanted to get an idea of what it would look like without any sort of outside aids, right? Any sort of styling aids or anything like that. So she sectioned her hair down the middle, and then she dried her hair the way that it would tell you to dry your hair using the Airstrait on the Dyson website. So she put it into the wet mode. We turned the heat all the way up and went through and dried it as she was supposed to dry it. Now, this was relatively quick, and she did say that it actually felt like it was faster, and it ended up actually taking from wet to completely dry 11 minutes and 52 seconds start to finish. Now, it did give her a pretty decent result. I didn't explain anything about how to use it other than here's the basics on how to turn it on, what to do with it, but no tips on how to maybe get a better finish or anything. I really wanted to get an idea of what it would be like if you just brought this home and you're not a stylist and you set it on your counter and you try to figure out, how do I get this thing to work? And so she did that. And then once we had that all finished, we moved over to her normal kind of routine, which would be to use a blow dryer to actually just what we call rough dry, which is to get the hair basically dry. And then after it was dry, she would actually go through with the flat iron like she typically would. Now, we used the Lifen blow dryer. This is one of my favorite blow dryers. I like it a lot, and I've talked a lot about it on my channel, but one of the things I like about it is it does dry the hair very quickly. So I do kind of have to take that into consideration on some level. This blow dryer tends to blow dry hair quickly. If your blow dryer is slower, then it obviously would affect the time to some extent, so kind of keep that in mind. But as a whole, it was pretty much the same process as she would normally take. So we went through that process. She blow dried it, did the rough dry, then took a flat iron to it, and that took 8 minutes and 39 seconds. I wouldn't say that personally I feel like this is a big win for the Airstrait, simply because I do think they look very similar. They aren't necessarily different. Like, you can't look at the Airstrait and say, wow, this is way better. You also can't look at it and say, wow, it's way worse. So I would assume that if you maybe used a slower blow dryer, the timing on both of them might come out to be very similar, or maybe still a little bit faster, just rough drying it and then using a flat iron. So I'm kind of on the fence. I have a hard time saying, yes, this is a 100% win for the Dyson, simply because there isn't a massive difference in the result, and there wasn't a massive difference in the time. In fact, the time kind of lent itself towards the idea of not using it. However, she did say that she felt that it was easier, and she did say that she actually felt that it was a little bit fluffier, the end result, meaning a little bit not so flat to the head. Now, for her, that wasn't something that she really wanted. However, for you, it may be something that you want. So let's kind of break down to my final thoughts. Is this something that you should spend your hard-earned $500 on? And I guess the answer would be, I don't know. Would I spend my money on it? Well, I already did, but if I were in the salon and using this on a day-to-day basis, would I, instead of using my normal round brush, blow dryer, and flat iron tools, would I switch over and use something like this? I don't actually think I would. Personally, I don't find that I would see as much use in something or a tool like this. But what if you're a person that maybe typically would round brush your hair? Maybe you blow dry it to get it dry, and then you use a round brush to just kind of straighten your hair out, but you want a little bit more life to it. I think in that scenario, this may actually come in handy because it does kind of do all of that to some level by itself. However, my only concern would be trying to create bend, and bend is where we get volume from, because this is not going to create the same amount of bend or the same kind of bend that you're going to get from a round brush. They're kind of two different animals. So in that scenario, you may lose some of that overall volume that you've gained from the round brush, and that might be a problem. So give or take. If you're a person who typically dries and straightens your hair with only a brush, you don't use flat irons because for whatever reason you don't like the heat or whatever it is, you have your reasons, but a brush, meaning a flat brush, a paddle brush, and a blow dryer, those are your typical game. Well, in that scenario, yes, this would work better than that, without question. It would be easier, it would likely be a little bit faster, and overall it would probably yield a better result. I think that's a very small section of society, though, that does that. I think it's just very expensive, and I think for maybe a couple people that really like the brand name and really like just the new technology and maybe just want to try it and have fun with it, and it's just kind of a cool tool, might be for you. It's going to cost a lot, and it's probably going to be a little bit of a disappointment if I'm completely honest. So there's that. But I'd like to hear what you think, so you tell me below, comment below and let me know. Is this something that you either have and or would want, or what are your thoughts? It says goodbye. On that note, I will let you go, and I will see you next week. Thanks for hanging out. Good luck. Let me know if you get it. Bye.